Hi, friends. Welcome to Unmasking with Cindy and Sarah. We are so excited. We have a very special guest today, our lovely friend, Carmen Rose from Carmen Rose Photography. She took some beautiful pictures of Cindy and I for our website and for a special project that she's part of that I'm about to share. She is located in the DFW area. She's a portrait photographer and wardrobe stylist, and we are just so grateful to have her here. One of the amazing creative things that she does, since we are talking a lot about creativity and intimacy, is the Over 40 project. So I'm going to read a little bit about that project, which Cindy and I were very honored to be a part of this year. And then we are going to have a wonderful conversation with our sweet friend Carmen. So the Over 40 Project honors women who embody beauty, grit, grace, gumption, and resilience. The portraits reflect the diverse lives of women who have faced and overcome challenges, each with their own unique story. They are mothers, daughters, sisters, grandmothers, creatives, business leaders, caregivers, teachers, healers, and many more. They are survivors of cancer, menopause, and life's trials, women who are continually thriving. For years, these women have dedicated themselves to carving out their place in the world, often expected to be everything to everyone. The exhibition serves as a powerful reminder that women are invaluable. They are architects of life, creating homes, holding space, raising families, nurturing friendships, breadwinning, crafting memories, and shaping lives. The experience has allowed them to see themselves through the world's eyes, not as flawed, but as perfectly beautiful in their strength and grace. Welcome, Carmen. We're so excited to have you here with us
Thank
today.
you. Thank you so much for having me. I love listening to you read that. It made me smile.
Well,
Yeah.
it's just such a beautiful depiction of what the project entails. And, Cindy and I were fortunate enough to be a part of this and so honored. And you just have such a special way, the way that you photograph women, the way you make them feel, the safety that you provide. And so we just
Thank
wanted
you.
you to share with our listeners a little bit of your background and, at what age you really found your creativity. I know when we were being photographed, you shared that you also, have always been kind of part of a creative background in the sense that you were photographed as a child and you really
Mhm.
observed the photographer. So if you just share a little bit of your story with us, we would love for our
Yeah,
listeners to hear.
absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to say it was an honor for me to have both of you participate. I really connected with the both of you while y'all were here in the studio, and that day, it's still in my mind as one of my favorites from this past year.
Ours too.
So, yay, good. Well, so yes, so I was a child model, and I spent my dad owned a marketing firm as well, and he used to pull me out of school to go along with him on photo shoots. And I think also, so I was diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia at a very young age. And back then, it wasn't really cool. It wasn't like neurodivergence. It was, a disability. And so my parents recognized that I was creative, and my teachers did, and my grandparents did. They put me in museum school, and I took, every form of art, whether it was drawing or ceramics, any and all of the above. And so I really sunk myself into those things because whatever you're told you're good at as a child, you're like, oh, well, I must be good. An adult told me so, right?
Mhm.
So I did that, and then um, when I was a child model, I really was enamored with the magic of the studio, and that there was a prop stylist and there was a makeup artist and there was a closet full of clothing. I didn't get to pick, which I was always a little frustrated by. I was like, why don't I get to pick? But and I always wanted to push the button on the camera. I remember, and they would direct and they would say, "Okay, Carmen, give us a surprised look. Imagine that you're getting a puppy right now." And I remember being like, "I'm getting a puppy?" Like, So, and the direction they gave you and the support they gave you was really great. I will say that my parents were always there, and so my relationship with the experience was very positive. I've heard other people that were children models have negative experiences. Mine was very positive. But I wanted to, in my adult life, bring that experience and how important it made me feel into the way that I create an atmosphere for my clients. Anybody that came into my studio, that was really important to me to sort of recreate um, that level of importance. And you know, I feel like confidence is something that you can fake, right? What I was given was deeper than confidence in those moments. And I was like, I want to recreate that feeling for the people that step into my studio. So,
I love that. I love that because, this month we're talking a lot about intimacy and, photography can feel so intimate because you're being so vulnerable and you have to
mhm,
position your body and you might not like, especially for women, we pick ourselves apart all of the time and we think, oh, I don't like that about myself. Or what if this doesn't come across okay? So I think that that is just like a lovely way of like, you've been there, you've been,
mm,
you've been in front of the lens, you know what it's like now to be behind the lens to really make someone feel safe. And I remember when you were photographing us and you would be like, I know this is going to feel awkward, but just trust me on this, because you wanted like very natural, to come across very natural in the way, like just like
mhm,
the small details that I've never experienced with a photographer before.
Mhm.
But you really like look at specifics, which I think takes a very um an amazing eye to do, because not
thank you.
everybody has that. And so those are the little details that I think really come across in your photography that are so beautiful. Um, and so I just wanted to share that with you because
Thank
it
you.
was
Thank you. That is not by accident. It is by design. That we, and I will say also, having a team of people that I can direct on, from the moment somebody arrives at the studio, our my lovely assistant greets them at their car. We want everything to make them feel comfortable and welcome. I refer to it as my velvet studio because as soon as they're inside of it, this is kind of weird and gross, but it's kind of like a womb. I want the experience to, or cocoon even, to give way to self discovery. And I want it to feel soft and easy inside
Mhm.
so that
Mhm.
somebody can let down their walls and they can be themselves. And that's why we operate with an all female staff.
Mhm.
I want them
Mhm.
to feel like they can connect and be understood. And anyhow, that's it's by design.
No,
Yeah. I stumbled across you on Instagram, I believe, is how I found out about the 40 over 40 project. And I might be skipping ahead a little bit, but I wanted to give some
That's okay.
context to how I found you. And I texted Sarah and I was like, hey, there's this 40 women over 40 project. And I think it would be twofold for us. I think it would be a great way for us to take some really fun pictures for our podcast, but then also just something unique for us to do. I've never had that experience before where I've had to bring outfits and things like that. And so it was really, I think, intimidating at first to think about yourself in that way. But I remember you
Mhm.
saying, like, bring some things that are playful and fun and that you wouldn't normally wear every day. So Sarah and I had a lot of fun, really just picking out things that maybe brought out certain parts of our personality that we don't get to show every day. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I just I wanted to share that before we jumped into the 40 over 40 project.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and women are so multifaceted. It would be silly for anybody to think that, oh, she's only sophisticated all the
Yeah.
time. I mean,
Mhm.
I would hope that you get to be um creative in your self-expression. And a
Yeah.
lot of us have to fit into a box
Yeah.
um most
Yeah.
of the time.
And I'm wondering too, because you said something that just kind of clicked for me. The fact that you probably have worked with so many different photographers as a child probably helped you like figure out what worked and what didn't and
Mhm.
what you wanted to take away when you photograph someone. So I imagine you've had some experiences where it was not as comfortable for you, and that was really something you wanted to get across when you were taking photos as well.
Yes, yes, words are powerful and important when you're
Hmm.
directing.
Sure.
Yes. And so please share with us a little bit about the project and how the project got started for you.
Well, it came out of a struggle. I so I've had a studio here. It'll be 14 years in May.
Wow.
And I know sometimes I wonder where the time went. I uh, used to only work with tweens and teens and college age girls. And the older I get, the younger it feels like they get.
That is
Yeah.
true.
So, for reference, I'm 37 and I have been through a lot of life. I've lived a lot of life now. And I feel like I was losing connection with those girls and I couldn't connect with them as much. And I found myself filtering myself and filtering my personality so much that I was becoming um, disenchanted with being creative. And it was turning me into a creative robot.
Mm.
And I didn't like that. And I was frustrated and I didn't know how to make a shift because so many times, if you've turned your creativity into your career, um, it it is scary. I was very fearful that I wouldn't be able to provide for myself, and so at one point, I think I went into a sort of a well, I'm not going to say sort of. It was a depression. I
Mhm.
was very burnt out, and I knew I had to do something. I had to make a shift. So the shift came from me desiring to be connected to my subject. I needed connection. So the 40 over 40 project, I knew that I needed to create something to where I would connect with a lot of people. And that's how it was born. I realized that there was so many women that had been through so much and they hadn't stopped to honor themselves. They hadn't paused long enough to celebrate themselves. And, when you go through so many life shifts, and some of them are compounded, and some of them are negative, and some of them are positive, you don't stop to note them and say, this was hard and I overcame it. And this, um, this was difficult, but it produced something really beautiful in my life. And I wanted to invite people to stop and take note of that. So that's how it was born. That's how the project came to be. And it just gained momentum. And between you, me, and all of the listeners, I actually photographed 43 women.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So my mom actually wanted to participate. And she was like, you can just take my photo out, Carmen. You don't have to include it since you went
Oh,
over. And I was like, Mom, I'm not going to do that. You're beautiful. I have to include you. So
Oh,
anyway,
that's
that's
so
how it came
neat.
to be.
Yeah.
no, that's beautiful.
43 women. I didn't realize that there were 43. And so I can imagine over the course of your time with these women, you're learning about their stories, you're hearing different parts of their struggles and their celebrations. And I'm wondering if there was a theme or there were many themes maybe that you picked up. So kind of like takeaways, that you kind of started to
Mhm.
see over time with women specifically 40 and over.
Right. So I I would say that uh, I would say that the intro phone call, I would have an interview call with a lot of them, and I would let them know that this was an invitation to be vulnerable, and that you know that was part of the experience, part of the process. Because I wasn't going to be able to draw out their personality on camera. I wasn't going to be able to capture them in a way that celebrated who they were if they were not able. And many times they were like, oh, yeah, here, let me just tell you my entire life story right now. And then they would come to the studio and they would also share more. And a lot of them I mean, so many times in life, we don't have the option but to persevere. And it's how we persevere that can um, define us
Mm-hmm.
in so many ways. I don't think it's the only thing that defines us, but um, I learned that these women, um, they had truly overcome something. Many of them were still in the process of overcoming something, and they wanted this experience to be a part of that. So, what I learned, I thought in the beginning, I thought I was going to, and I still think I did this, but I thought that I was going to be giving them a gift. And truly, at the end of the project, um, they showed me that there's so much beauty in their challenges and in their hardships.
Mhm.
And I mean, just a few. Of course, I'm not going to use any names, but one of my beautiful women this year, she lost her husband, and the very next day, she got offered the CFO position in her pharmaceutical company that she was working for. And she said that it was so difficult to be happy about something when something so horrible had happened, um, and that she was going to have to move to California and start a new life.
Mm.
And she felt guilty for being excited.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, these are the types of layering that occurs in our lives. And we're so worried about what other people will think of us. And yes, it was really difficult. I think her husband had it wasn't sudden, but I just found that there was so much beauty in their stories. And it was so humanizing for me. And it was a huge gift to me. I don't know if I'm answering your question properly,
Yeah.
but um, I mean, the layers of stories that
Mhm.
I was able to translate into imagery and portraits for
Yeah.
those women. I wish I could have told the stories of each of them with their side by side with their photo, but of course I would never want to make anybody uncomfortable. But it was a lot. It was a lot.
So really what I'm hearing is resiliency, that
Hmm.
you're working with these women and you're finding out that there's growth that comes from really painful moments, those moments that kind of bring us to our knees, but then also shape us and grow us and challenge us to rethink about our identities and who we
Hmm.
are and who we're not. And just, gosh, that's so layered. You're right. So
Hmm.
complex.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
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 Beautiful.
And I think that there's something so beautiful about as you get older as a woman, you just kind of let your guard down more. And in the sense, when you're younger, I feel like you have such an intrinsically motivated sense of self as you want to feel, that everyone likes you and you're doing the right things. But then you go through all these life experiences and it just changes you. You start finding out what's really more important to you, who you are as a woman. And so I think having a beautiful picture that is here forever, you're not going to be here forever. We all eventually, but it can move on with the generations. I know after I received my photograph and those pictures, I thought this is so wonderful because my daughter will have this to look back at her mom one day. Because I'm not someone who loves I don't love taking pictures. I don't I get nervous being on this, like when we have to put our little things up. But I thought, wow, I wish I had pictures of my grandmother like this. I wish I had, I
Yeah.
miss her. I wish
Hmm.
I think it's just so empowering to have. And I wish I had through each decade of my life a picture that I could hang on the wall that was just reflected who I am and the different changes. That's what I think that is so amazing um, to just have that to pass on because, eventually we all do leave this earth. But the pictures are what our family, keeps us alive within our family. So I think that was
Yeah.
also something that I found really beautiful about the project.
Well, and I have to say that when you have your portrait made and your daughters see it, and I'm just going to say daughters because
Mhm.
I feel like women struggle with the same things. And when you do that, it gives permission to your daughters, your nieces, your sister, even your mother to celebrate herself, to celebrate
Mhm.
themselves, and to, um, not feel shameful about it,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and not feel like, oh my goodness, people might think I'm conceited because I have a portrait of myself on the wall, you know? Um, and I think that that's something, and like you said, there's a photo of my mom that she had made for my dad when she was in her 30s, and she's in a silk nightgown. I mean, that's very scandalous. It wasn't revealing at all, and her hair is like tossed all to one side, um, and it's freshly blown out, and it looks bouncy and beautiful. And I cherish this photo of my mom. And you're
Yeah.
right. I wish she would have done it at age 40. And
Mhm.
um, luckily, I have photographed my mom about 4 times in her adult life. And I have these really great photos of her. She scolded me the other day, actually, for removing so much. Um, she had some dark spots on her hands. And she said, "Why did you remove those?" And I was like,
Mm.
"Well," she said, "you won't be able to tell that I've aged in the photos." So I was like, okay, she wants to age, guys. But anyway, sorry, I'm going
No,
off a rabbit
no,
trail.
ageism is so big for women. Like
It's
there's such a
true.
negative, vibe around women getting older. And I think we're
Mhm.
trying now to do a good job of, really promoting aging beautifully for women. So I think
Yeah.
that that's another thing that women struggle with. So that being over 40, because it used to be over 40, like, oh, that's it for you. Like you're out of Hollywood, you're out of but now we're, it's like we're embracing it. Like women are
Hmm.
taking care of themselves. And so I think, that's beautiful that your mother, was like, no, this is who I am. This is me raw. This is where I'm at. I love that.
Yeah.
Have y'all seen Pamela Anderson recently?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, I'm thrilled.
I
I think it's
know.
wonderful.
Same. I think it's wonderful as well, just to really celebrate these different stages of our life is almost like rites of passage, and
Hmm.
another thing that I was wondering about, during these photo sessions, Carmen, because you had us in these outfits. Again, I keep going back to the outfits because it's not something that I would normally like wear around or even out on a date night, And I remember when I got the photos back, I was like, oh my gosh, like these are so fun. And I was excited about them and then showed them to my teenage boys. And it's funny to see their reaction to their mom in something that they might normally not see, and they're like, oh my gosh, mom, like, is that going to be your new business card photo? And I'm like, no, 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 no. Okay. Like this is for the website and all of that. But anyway, I'm getting off topic, but I think
No, that's okay.
not every woman is comfortable in this very vulnerable process of, taking these more intimate photos and these positions that you normally wouldn't, like have yourself in. And so I'm curious what you do, like when you have a woman in your studio who's maybe a little bit more timid or, just not really sure of herself in that way.
Hmm.
What, what kinds of things do you find to be helpful with women in these sessions?
So, a few things. The first thing that we do is we have them fill out a survey prior to their photo shoot.
Mhm.
And one of the questions on there is, how would you like to be perceived or seen? Or how would you like to feel when you see your portraits?
That's a good question.
And so a lot of those women, what people will write on a survey are so different from what they will say out loud. And I love that. Um, one of my favorites, I had some women participate that were in their 70s, and we put the word sexy on the survey, and
Mhm.
some of them wanted to be perceived as sexy. So
Love
then the
it.
question becomes, what is sexy to you? Because it's so different for everybody.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, or what is strong? So I've had a very, very soft-spoken, quiet women who want to be perceived as bold and strong when they don't come off that way in person. And so part of it is prep, I would say. And we do a styling consultation, and I try to send photos from a mood board and ask the question, how do you feel about this? What do you think about this?
Mm-hmm.
Could you see yourself doing this? If Would you like to try it, but you can't see yourself doing it? Because those are different than, oh no, I would never. And oh, that scares me, but I think I should try it because it scares me. So part of it goes into the planning process. That's part of my creative process, is to make sure that we're on the same wavelength when it comes to creatively planning a photo shoot. But as far as soon as they're in the studio goes, we already have a plan. We kind of already know what they feel comfortable doing and not doing. And then sometimes I will be surprised and they'll say, you know what? I think I might want to try that one thing that you showed me. And in that moment, I'm like leaping for joy. And the whole team is like, yes, because that's the other thing, is the team is kind of, um, they're your, uh, they're your squad. They're cheering for you on the sidelines. They're making you feel really important. And we specifically don't have a mirror in the space that we shoot in. The mirror is only in the hair and makeup area and in the bathroom and in the changing room, because we don't want anybody to be looking at themselves to check themselves. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we want them to be responding to our energy so that, um, it can bounce off of us. And then I would say also, most of the time, I don't show somebody the back of my camera until the second or third look. We do 5 looks for everybody that comes through the studio. And if I can sense that they feel insecure,
Mm-hmm.
then I show them the back of my camera and it instantly melts away. I mean, sometimes you can see the relief on their face and they're like, that's me? That's not
Yeah.
me. And I'm like, no, that is you. They're like, how did you make me look that good? And I'm like, well, this light over here is feathered just so. And we have this V flat absorbing light to make sure that the outside of your, you know, um, silhouette looks just so. And we are creating something with you that makes you feel empowered, because that's what you said you wanted, right? You want to feel like a powerful, strong woman, right? And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
yes. So those are the types of things. I mean, um, it's so exciting to watch too when it
Mm-hmm.
unfolds in the studio, because it is a metamorphosis for sure.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. And you know what? I didn't realize there was no mirror. Now that we're
I didn't
in that
either.
room, I did not realize it. But
On
yeah, there was
purpose.
in the bathroom. Yes, there was in the bath. But I think too, it's also just so, like you said, you have your team come out and greet, like we were greeted. They brought our stuff in. You had like champagne and hors d'oeuvres
That
for
does help.
us. You guys picked out the jewelry. Like it was just nice as a woman to just feel like pampered, and you didn't have to make a decision. I feel like as women, all we do every day, all day is make decisions
Mm-hmm.
about what do we need to do here? What do I have? Like you're just in your head, you're like checking off a list. I have this to do. I have that to do. So it was so nice to just show up, have somebody do your hair and makeup. Like you don't even have to worry, like, am I going to blow it out okay? You have it was just it starts out just calm, like just really calm. So I think that helps you relax physically, and you're not like
Mm-hmm.
tense with all of these different thoughts running through your head of like, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? What is it going to look like? And I was one of those that you showed me the back of your camera, because I was like, oh, I'm not a person who likes pictures at all. But I remember seeing it and I was like, wow, like you really
Yeah.
made me feel like beautiful.
I'm
And
so glad, Sarah.
no, I've never really felt that way. Like when I look at my wedding pictures, anything, it's just Cindy knows every time I'm always like, delete. If there's a picture, she's like, Sarah. It was such like, I think that's why I want to come back and have you take more pictures, because I felt just so safe with you. And I think that is hard to find for women, to feel
Yes.
like beautiful
Wow.
and safe in our body, because society has all of these mixed messages about what is beautiful, what you're supposed to look like. And then on top of that, you put like, you have these women with all these stories. And a lot of our stories go back to childhood, and they are about our body, what our bodies used to look like, or, you know, maybe what kids had said to us growing up about our bodies and different things like that. So it's just, I would have never like done this. So I'm glad Cindy was like, we're doing this. We're doing this.
I didn't give you any time to back out
She
either.
didn't
I was
give
like,
me
this
any
is what we're
time.
doing.
She knows that I am one that's like, oh my gosh, like, don't show my face. Like, I'm the one who's like, I need a neck surgery. Like, I need all of these things. And she, but no, I think there's just something like, I look at that picture of myself up in my house, and my daughter looks at it. And Cindy and I both talked about how our pictures really give the essence of who we each are.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of that picture. Like, it is who I am to the core, like the seriousness of like, yes, I can be like silly and all those things, but it really shows like who I am, I think, on the inside. And so I don't know, I enjoy,
That's
like,
a
I just,
huge compliment to me.
oh,
Thank you so much. I love that.
oh, I mean, we both talk all the time about how our pictures just kind of embody. And as Cindy even went through, like, you know, like, I loved her outfit, and I loved her husband loved all the pictures, by the way, as well. But like, I remember, Cindy, you were a little like, I don't know about this outfit. I don't know about
Well, I
this,
was
but
10.
it's so you.
Yeah.
It's so like cool and rock and roll. And like, why shouldn't we just be like, you're so like bohemian and just like free? Like, why shouldn't we just be who we want to be and just let it be captured and not care what anybody thinks? I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's what's so
It's,
amazing.
I
That is the
agree.
struggle.
It is the struggle. It is
Mhm.
the struggle. And I think, Carmen, halfway through the photo shoot, like, you would be like, now relax your hands a little bit. Now open your, and it's so funny because I tend to do that. I was tense in the beginning, and I could feel myself like gripping, like
We're
gripping a
grinders when we sleep, Cindy. Like, we just hold it all in.
There's a reason I've had a night guard
I
for a
mean,
really long
we're
time.
tense
Okay.
sleeping, okay? Like,
But
Yeah.
but it was amazing to be able to kind of go back and go, okay, that is the true essence of my personality. If I can just relax, if I can just embrace this process, like, it will come out. And I'm wondering, Carmen, for you, for a creative individual, are there specific people that you look to for inspiration, or does that even shift and grow as you mature? And yeah.
It does. I will say I owe a great deal to my parents and my family for um, that inspiration and the ability to be myself, because I've always been encouraged to be myself. My mantra, I was told a lot growing up, and um, I think I had a few friend breakups because I have such a strong personality. And I was just told, Carmen, you're a lot. You're just a lot. And my mantra that I learned through a painful process, and then we came up with it. I actually came up with it, and my therapist was like, "That's your mantra." Is I'm not too much. I'm just the right amount.
Yeah.
And my family really infused in me. My whole family is creative. My mother has a degree in fashion design. My dad's minor was in art. My baby sister has a degree in art. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts myself. And then my middle sister, who is a therapist, her minor was also in art. And it was always taught to us as a stress reliever, or as an sort of, my parents would just be like, well, why don't you go write about it? Why don't you go paint for a few hours? Here's here's some pastels. It was just handed to us as our tool. And so as growing up, that being my tool for processing my emotions, or stress management, I think that I would say my family is my primary source of inspiration. Secondarily, I've always sought out mentorship, and it's usually a paid mentor, a paid creative mentor, and I find somebody out of state. I don't want
Yeah.
my work to start reflecting that of somebody local. And
Mhm.
so when I know that I need something and I'm lacking something, I will go find it. As far as, needing to grow. And um, anyhow, that's probably what I would say would
Yeah.
be my
Yeah.
greatest source of inspiration.
Cool.
And I wanted to ask, because you just said that, growing up, you were told that you were, too much sometimes. How did that, how was that for you? Like growing up, hearing that and being such a creative person, was it harder for you to have, like to get close? Like, or did you feel like you had to, we're called unmasking. Did you feel like you had to mask who you were a lot? So then it came out more in a creative way, like where you could really express yourself?
So I tend to be the antithesis. My mom will tell you if she told me I couldn't do something, I went and did it. Especially if it was talking back or so I think that it
The
emboldened me.
PDA profile from ADHD, the pathological demand avoidance. Somebody tells you to do it, you're like, not doing that.
Exactly, exactly. So I think that it made me the way that it negatively impacted me is that I became even more outspoken in a way that almost didn't match who I am at my
Okay.
core.
Mhm.
So in a lot of ways, um, I became more outspoken, or I would say something for the value of shock. And I don't know if y'all are familiar with the Enneagram, but I'm an
Mhm.
eight,
Mhm.
which is the challenger. And
Okay.
so, in many ways, I had to um, find my plumb line, find my taproot again in my adult life because I was told I was too much and therefore I became more.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
I let that pendulum swing way too far in the opposite direction. And I remember one time I was in my early 20s and I wore a black bra underneath a white t-shirt and somebody told me it was tacky. So I started buying all of my bras in bright colors and wearing them underneath white t-shirts. Because I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? This offends people. I'm going to offend them more.
Right.
Um, they told me I'm going to show them. That
Mhm.
sort of was my personality, and that's toned down quite a bit. But it also enabled me to stretch my own boundaries and learn who it was that I actually wanted to be instead of, you know, I learned I really don't want to offend people.
Mhm.
That's not all it's cut out to be.
Yeah.
Um, but now uh, I've settled into an area where I don't care what people think, but I
Mhm.
do want to be true to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, we were
So,
talking about Pamela Anderson earlier, and she's kind of gone the other way to this, like, gosh, talk about unmasking. She's gone no makeup, and she's really just stepping into this, like, maybe softer side of herself now, where
mhm.
she can still make a statement, but doesn't have to be big and bold about it. I mean, it's almost like the opposite. Kind of feels counterintuitive, right? Like the quieter she is, the more people are paying attention in that area. And I wonder for you specifically, like in the beauty industry, the photography industry, like um what what do you see in terms of um really accurately reflecting women's experiences, how the world experiences them, right? Like what do you notice?
So, if we're talking about the media, um, then I think that, it is the responsibility of each of us to be mindful of what we're allowing to influence us, and then also teaching our daughters and our um, nieces and our sisters that are younger than us about how to be mindful about that. Um, the quote that I used at the gallery opening is by Peter Lindbergh, and he said, "The responsibility of a photographer today is to free women from the terror of youth and perfection."
Hmm.
And I think that making a generic statement like that, you have to listen to each person individually and how they want to be represented, I think is really important, and what makes them feel confident. I ask everybody that comes to me, I say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you want me to edit you? 11 being removing every wrinkle off your face and minimizing every single pore, and 0 being removing none at all. And I hope that the experience here influences them to look at themselves with kindness and um, not harsh judgment. And changing people's perspective starts there. I don't think that you can look at anybody and say, oh, but your wrinkles are beautiful, because they're going to say, oh, yeah, right. Thank you.
Mm.
Right. It feels dismissive of our feelings. I think that really talking to people about what they've been through and all of, like we've been talking about thus far, their life experiences, that's where you get people to sort of accept themselves. I don't know if I'm answering your question very
Yeah.
well.
No, you
Yeah,
are.
you are. Yeah.
But that's where I come from when it comes to that. I really hate generically blaming the media, because I do think that it's a responsibility that a photographer might have individually with that person, and the editor might have with that individual. I realize that looking young is always going to be desirable, no matter what we do.
Yeah.
So
That's such a great point though, Carmen. I didn't think of it like that until now. And honestly, I don't think I've ever had an experience where someone has asked for my personal opinion about how much I wanted things to be edited or touched up, or I mean, it's not like I get photographed a lot, but I mean, I've never had an experience where a photographer, be it family photos or just a headshot for something, go, how much do you want me to make this not look like you, I guess,
right.
essentially, And so now that I'm thinking of it in that light, like, I think what I hear you saying is that really connecting with that person and understanding their story and what they're trying to accomplish out of the photographs. And that just gives you such an insight to so much more about how they view themselves. And hopefully we can kind of meet in the middle somewhere and be compassionate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it doesn't help either, social media now and all of the, Photoshop, you see all of these, and then you see all these different famous people and they're distorting their face with all of these different things. And you don't even know if half of it is real half the time. I mean, is the person really Photoshopped? Is that what they really look like after they get their injections? I don't know. You just don't really know. So I think it's not even just on photography. It's on what people are presenting out there. And then you have these younger generations seeing pictures or people, online posting things, and it's not really what it seems. And I know we're all from the generation where it was like heroin chic was like the big thing, is like, you need to look. No, it was like, back in the day,
Yeah.
Kate Moss, Calvin Klein commercials, like, let's look as thin and emaciated as possible. And then we just went into a new generation now where it's, being curvy is great and, very voluptuous. But now I feel like they're sending messages to take it back to the other way. And it's like, man, like, as women, you just can't get a break sometimes. So that's why I think the project's so amazing, because it's putting different women, like, there's so many, everybody's different. Everybody, it's not just the same people.
We
You're
had the most
showing,
incredible variety. I agree. It was really cool. And it was really cool to watch so many people embrace their body type. And I mean, the number of times people were like, my butt looks good. And I was like, it does. Yes. And and in the beginning, one of the other questions on the survey is, what is your favorite feature about yourself? And to hear what people loved about themselves most, And then, we made sure we also asked them what was their least favorite so that we could, navigate that delicately and make sure that everybody felt encouraged and supported. And it was really fun to watch people come out of their box and
Yeah.
feel like they could show off.
Yeah.
I love
So,
that. No, and I just love to when we're talking about intimacy that it doesn't have to be like a boudoir kind of thing. You
Mhm.
know,
mhm.
it can be just taking a beautiful picture and something that makes you feel beautiful. Although boudoir is amazing, and I know that you do those as well. Um, so, I think a lot of people sometimes associate intimacy with being very sexual or, really showing a lot of your body, but you can have such a beautiful, intimate portrait taken and cover up your entire body. It's just
Mhm.
capturing who you are and the essence of you on the inside. And I think that that was really my takeaway from all of this, too, from each individual was just how intimate, like within each person, you could just feel their aura coming through the picture.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Thank you.
So,
I feel like I had the honor of disarming so many people, and that was my goal, is that in the image that we chose, and I did get approval for all of the images that we put in the show, the portrait
Yeah.
presentation itself. Most people did. Some of them were a little bit more scandalous, but I had full permission, and I was like, "Is this okay?" And they were like, "Well, my 12-year-old son is going to be there, but yes, it's okay."
yes.
And I loved that. It was like, you know what? You're owning who you are, and this is what makes you feel this way, and seen. You know, I think
Yeah.
that it made them feel seen.
It did.
So,
And before we end our show today, can you tell us, Carmen, like what your plans are for the project, like moving forward, where, women can reach out to you,
mhm.
what your goals are for the project moving forward? Because I know there's a lot of women out there who would just love this project and love to be a part of it, who have so many beautiful stories. So just share a little bit about that with our listeners as well.
Yes. So our project is not done yet. It is going to be ongoing currently, and you can find me. Well, my studio is located in Fort Worth proper, so that's where the day of our shoots take place. And the two ways that you can find me are going to be Instagram, and that is Carmen Rose Portraiture. And then the website is also carmenroseportraiture.com. And it's gonna be a fun new season, and we can't wait to meet and hear more beautiful stories.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we'll share all of this too on our socials.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
But please, if you're in the DFW area, even if you're not, reach out to Carmen. It is such an amazing experience. You will not regret it at all.
You will not.
It's just the coolest thing to be a part of. Cindy and I just loved our time. So I really hope that this project just keeps getting bigger and bigger because it's such a cool idea and
Mhm.
not, I haven't heard of anyone else doing something like this. So I think it's amazing honoring women.
Yes.
Thank you.
We just
Yeah.
really we just really appreciated it, and you just working up close with us, and it's a whole team, you guys. So it's a hair and makeup, there's somebody helping you with clothing. Carmen is helping you, just through the whole process and what you want to accomplish with the photos. And I wonder, Carmen, if you could leave our listeners with just a message that you wish to convey through your work. So when they come to see you and they get in touch with you, they kind of know what your vision and your goal is. What's your message?
Um, I would say that my message is, this is sounds so cliche, but I believe every single woman is so beautiful. And um, I invite you to come discover and celebrate your individuality and the things that make you unique and special. That would be and my desire is for you to be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I would say are key and important to the overall experience.
Well, that is beautiful. We have just enjoyed having this conversation with you, Carmen, having you here to discuss intimacy and creativity, especially, for women over the age of 40. And that's so important because as you get older, sometimes you can feel like, your youth is gone and you want to still feel beautiful as women. That's how we want to feel. So thank you so much for coming on and talking with us today.
Thank you. Thank you both.
We're going to share all of your contact information where people can read more about the project. So stay tuned, guys. We will have all that up when Carmen's episode airs. But we thank you so much, Carmen.
Yes,
and we look forward to
you.
the next session with you.
Yes.
Yay. I had so much fun with y'all.
Okay.
Can't wait.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Carmen.
Mm-hmm.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If this podcast resonated with you, it would mean so much to us if you'd be willing to take a few minutes of your time and do a couple of things. First, can you please follow or subscribe to the Unmasking podcast? This is helpful for you because you'll never miss an episode. So to do this, go to the Unmasking podcast show page on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and tap the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner or click follow. While you're there, if you'd be willing to give us a 5-star rating and share an episode that you loved with a friend, we would be so grateful. The Unmasking podcast is created and hosted by Cindy Payne and Sarah Vaught. And you can also find more information by logging on to our website, theunmaskingpodcast.com. There you will see opportunities to subscribe as well as apply to be a guest on our show. As always, we're so grateful for you, and we hope you join us next week for a new episode. Thank you.